44 Magnum versus 10 millimeter and revolvers here. And I was going to test both the same brand of the 44 Magnum and the 10 millimeter. We have our Hornady custom for our 44 Mag. But after I got back from the gun store, I realized I picked up 155 grain. And this is a 240 grain. Not really very comparable. So I went through my inventory and I found that I had some Buffalo Bore 180 grain 10 millimeter. So 180 grain versus 240 grain. Those are pretty much the standard weights for 44 Magnum and 10 millimeter. And both of these are pretty good, like cartridges, the way they're loaded. They're not cheap cartridges. They're loaded to pretty much their full potential. So this should be a relatively fair test. So I'm using my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson revolvers today, my model 69 with a 4 1/4 inch barrel, and my model 610 for the 10 millimeter that actually has a 4-inch barrel, very close. This all actually looks like it has a lot shorter barrel because part of the barrel is inside the frame there. That's kind of the way they do semi-automatic caliber revolvers. So our 10 millimeter is rated at 1350 feet per second. Our 44 Magnum is rated at 1350 feet per second, but I believe those are through much longer barrels and they got those velocities from. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocities we get, see what kind of accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. I'm going to go into plain clear ballistics gel, see what the best potential of those cartridges are. You know, no denim to clog a hollow point or anything like that. And then I'm going to do more of our real world simulation where I have 4 layers of denim here on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we'll have a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard right here to represent ribs or sternum, and we'll see how they do in more of our real world simulation. And then, as always, I am going to shoot at my steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. I'm about 5 yards from that target. First up, I'm going to test our 44 Mag. I never truly enjoy shooting this with Magnum ammo because this is a pretty light revolver. This is like 37 ounces. That 10 millimeter revolver is actually 42 ounces. So a more powerful cartridge and a lighter gun. Not so much fun all the time, but let's see how close we get to that 1350 feet per second rate of velocity. 1301, not too bad. 1245. 1169. Yeah, that's really inconsistent. And we have a lot of flame coming out hitting my thumb here. This is very uncomfortable. 1151, I believe. 1168. So very inconsistent velocity. Kind of interesting that it was so high at first and then it dropped. I mean, in the 1100s ain't bad for a 240 grain. It's still very powerful, but that first one was more powerful. So with our 10 millimeter here, I did color one of these cartridges around the case mouth and the base of the exposed bullet so that I could see if we have any bullet creep, because these should be more powerful than target rounds. But let's see what I get here. Our 10 millimeter, see how close this gets to our 1350 rated velocity. 1307, 1271, 1311. I'm gonna check that last bullet there, see if we have any creep. There's a little bit. I'll fire the last two. 1321. No read on that last one. Didn't move anymore. So let's fire that last one, see if we get a read on that one. 1320. So closer to rated velocity with our 10 millimeter. You know, the recoil was significantly different between both of these as well. Our 44 Magnum was horrendous to shoot. Our 10 millimeter had just a little bit less recoil than your typical 357 Magnum, so very pleasant to shoot this. So let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, our first shot into plain clear ballistics. This is our best potential here. Just plain clear ballistics. We'll start with the 44 Mag, get that out of the way. You know, my thumb is legitimately getting burned, so I need some protection on this left hand here. So 44 Magnum, plain gel, see what this does. Let me set that back up. We'll hit it with the 10 millimeter. All right, 10 millimeter auto. Let's see what this does. take a look. All right, so very interesting here. I would show the first 3-inch, but you can't really see through that block, that first 3-inch block from the front of it, from the back side of it, I mean. You can kind of probably see through there. What's very interesting here is we had similar performance with that 10 millimeter when it comes to how much tearing is going on and damage is going on. You know, very similar expansion. It looks like the 10 millimeter expanded a little bit more than the 44 mag. I do believe both these are XTP bullets. I'm not 100% sure with that 10 millimeter, but it very much looked like an XTP bullet. And I know that the Hornady Custom 44 mag uses an XTP and very similar amount of damage going on. So obviously our 44 mag did, I guess, better, but you're dealing with what felt like twice the recoil to me. But we had a little bit of over penetration. So if you're going to use this for regular personal defense, you got to be aware it's a potential this could pass through an attacker. We're at about 23.25 inches of penetration. Now with our 10 millimeter, that was pretty much perfect. What we got going on there is 18 inches of penetration, good expansion, just a perfect personal defense cartridge from what I can tell. So very good. Now let's put on our denim, put in our MDF, do more of our real world simulations, see how they compare that way. All right, I'm hoping not to lose this entire gel block and knock everything over. Hit pretty hard. So 44 mag, 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, 1/4 inch MDF, real world simulation. Let me set that back up. We'll hit it with the 10 millimeter. All right, 10 millimeter automatic. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. So today I brought out here 2 different pieces of MDF in anticipation that something like this would happen. I didn't actually think it would, but it did. So our 44 Magnum right here is our 44. Huge expansion before it hit that. Busted this whole thing in half. Our 10 millimeter auto did essentially the same thing here. We have some big expansion, huge expansion before it hit that. Busted that in half there. So our damage path is obviously deeper and longer with our 44 mag, and it's a little bit wider as well. But what I'm seeing from the 10 millimeter is extreme consistency. You know, with our 44 mag, we went even further penetration, probably just from, you know, reducing that expansion a little bit. And we got about 24.5 inches of penetration, definitely over penetration. Our 10 millimeter, we stopped at pretty much the same spot. I mean, it might be back just a little bit more even, about 17.75. So very consistent across the board with that 10 millimeter. So what I could say is that through this 4-inch revolver, I would say that our 180 grain 10 millimeter is almost like a ballistic twin to a 357 Magnum 158 grain. Does essentially the same thing. So as a personal defense cartridge, looks like the 10 millimeter in a revolver does really good. And what's kind of neat about 10 millimeters, if you go up to like a hard cast, you're probably on average going to be more powerful than like a 357 Magnum. So very good. I'm impressed overall with the ballistic performance of that 10 millimeter through a revolver. It looks really good. Now our 44 mag, well, that still did 44 mag things. Went a little bit too deep, but it's not extreme over penetration. My gut feeling actually tells me that someone with my gut size would stop a bullet like that. It's not super extreme. Generally, when I get to about halfway through this second block, and there's further than that, I kind of think, my common sense is telling me that could pass right through somebody. But when we're not quite halfway through it, I think probably pass through somebody that's small, but not somebody that's a little bit bigger. So yeah, a little bit over penetration, but I would say if we're looking at this as a personal defense cartridge, I mean, both of them did fine, but our 10 millimeter is absolutely perfect for getting perfect statistical, you know, penetration. If this were organic gel, we'd probably get more like 16 inches. So very perfect for that 10 millimeter across the board. So let's take a close-up look at these, and then I'm going to shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets here. Here's our 44 Magnum through our plain gel, and here is our 10 millimeter through our plain gel. A piece busted off there. But pretty similar overall expansion for how big it is. Obviously our 44 looks a little bit bigger, but I mean percentage wise, I would say they're about the same amount of expansion. Very good overall. Now when we go through our medium density fiberboard, here is our 44 Magnum. Essentially the same thing going on, maybe just a tad less diameter from some of the lead busting off against that fiberboard. And our 10 millimeter actually looks bigger through our medium density fiberboard versus through our plain gel. So across the board, there's nothing to complain about here. I believe all of these are over 1.5 times expansion just by looking at them. I haven't measured them with the calipers yet, but they look like that. Overall, just very good performance across the board. However, that lighter bullet, you know, moving a little bit faster was a little bit more beneficial to not get over penetration. So as a personal defense round, our 10 millimeter is definitely better. As maybe a bear defense round that can also double as a personal defense round, I think a 44 would do a little bit better, but nothing to complain about here. They both look really good. So let's close up look at those. All right, so 40 yards from the target. Let's see if I can make any hits here with our 44 Magnum. See how this does for me. I don't know where that went. Alright, so they're shooting high for me. Could just be the recoil, I'm anticipating that. So let me do 10 millimeters, see how this does. That hits a lot harder than I expected. That second shot there, I had a little bit of a hang up because I'm not using a moon clip. And I think that, yeah, we have a little bit of a stuck cartridge in there. It's sticking out just a little bit because I think it's starting to get dirty. So let me pull this cartridge out, this case out. Then I'm going to go to 75 yards, see if I can make any hits from there. All right, 75 yards from the target. We're kind of in a SHTF hunt here. 4-inch barrel, not particularly great for hunting, but let's see if I can make any shots, single action, 75 yards on the steel, 44 Magnum. Again, I shot way over the target. I don't know if that's just me or if that's where these rounds are going naturally. I'm not really sure. Case ejection on these is pretty bad, but that's partly this revolver just doesn't want to eject rounds very good. Yeah, it's kind of an underbuilt gun for too much cartridges, where that 10 millimeter is an overbuilt gun for more cartridge than what it's handling. So I'm going to aim below the target with this, see if I can make any hits. Still high. Wow. All right. So that was hard to do, and it's probably just me anticipating that recoil. You know, it's burning through this glove even more. There was a smaller hole, and my thumb is actually black. So when you feel that hot pain, sometimes it makes you flinch a little bit. So 10 millimeter, let's see how this does. Wow, that hits pretty hard. So I was pulling a couple of them to the right for some reason. I used the moon clip this time. And we still have that stuck case thing going on. But I am able to get it out pretty easily. So 10 millimeter versus 44 mag. What's so interesting about this, and it's partly because it weighs 42 and some odd ounces, I think, is that the recoil in this is really mild, even with that buffalo bore ammo. And then when it hits the steel, it's like, what? This is super powerful. Kind of the same reaction I had with 357 SIG. When I was shooting that through my MMP pistol, it's like more powerful than typical 357 Magnum, but there's almost no felt recoil, and then it hits the steel, and it's like, what? It just doesn't seem right. And then we got the same thing going on with this. It just doesn't seem right. Less recoil than a 357 Magnum through this, but you know, more power than a 357 Magnum. This just doesn't make any sense. Now, obviously, if we shot that same round through like a Glock 20, you know, we're going to have more recoil than what most people are used to. But in this revolver, we bring that recoil down to something like a mild 357 or a hot 38 plus P through a typical revolver for recoil. But then it hits extraordinarily hard. So overall, looking at everything here, normally I like to say that, you know, a true revolver cartridge is a better option because it's simple. You put the cartridges in, you extract them out. But looking at that 44 Magnum, there's so much felt recoil that for an average person, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, to be honest here. Like if I was going to go to Alaska and I needed something for brown bear defense, I would probably pick this over that 44 Magnum. Simply because, you know, doing what I do, I know that it's more about load choices than what it is about actual caliber. Like if you had a really terrible choice for 44 Magnum, like PMC, hollow point, and you would compare that to Buffalo Bore 357 Mag hardcast, yeah, obviously ammo choice matters. And with something like this, I think that, you know, with the right ammo, you're going to do just as well as a hot 357 or a middle of the road 44 Magnum. But you're going to do it with half the recoil of the 44 mag anyways. So I would say across the board, our better option really for multiple purposes is this 10 millimeter versus that 44 mag. Now, yeah, we can get 44 special for the 44 mag revolver. That makes a fine personal defense round. And then the 44 mag will go a little bit hotter if we go with hard cast, but there's a lot of felt recoil. This 10 millimeters kind of splits the difference there. You know, you can shoot 40 through it, you can shoot hot 10 millimeter through it, and we have less recoil across the board. So I would say our 10 millimeter did better here today. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.